Oh, that's recording. Cool stuff. Hello, chess friends. Welcome to the Sicilian Mangarini Variation. That's a sideline. And then I would like to present to you guys a sideline to the sideline. I think it's very important in chess that you surprise your opponents. By presenting these sidelines, I'm not implying in any way that I disavow the main lines, the well trodden paths for you to play with white or black in various openings. Not at all. But given the fact you'll be playing humans, the psychological surprise, it's incredibly important factor when you're having a human opponent. Because if you'll be versing Stockfish 15 every single time, probably you're kind of gonna lose every single game, even if you play the most robust opening. Hell, even maybe super GMs, super top players, Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, if they play Stockfish 15 or the latest engine on the planet available now, are they going to win? Probably not. So now, because we're addressing a game in which you will be versing another human, either over the board or online, I think a sideline on this and another sideline to the sideline might be a contributing factor to you creating sort of confusion in their minds, and maybe it will cloud their judgment at some points, or it will introduce a couple of tactics and they'll be surprised, and maybe you will manage to bank in a quick victory. Okay, again, study the main lines, that's absolutely fine. We ourselves gonna do it, but I also want to make you guys familiar with the sidelines. So we said about the Mangarini variation. Probably in Italian would be Mengarini, if I get this correctly. And probably you guys remember about that scene in the Inglorious Bastards with the Margarete, Mengarini. Okay, if there's any Italian watcher, let me know if I said it correctly. Mengarini. Okay, cool stuff, because I love to play the Mengarini or the Mengarini. I think from an Italian chess master, Ariel Mengarini. So that's something totally that worth giving your time and your attention, guys. So let's proceed with this one. Then e4, c5. So now I'm talking about white versing Sicilians here. Now, it is a wing gambit. It is called sometimes delayed wing gambit, and you go with the a3 move. And you guys are going to play b4. Even if black plays knight c6 or e6, which by the way are the common ways, and probably the best ways for black to reply to a3 is knight to c6 or e6 pawn. Makes a lot of sense. Also, black might be playing g6. Okay, if g6, I would suggest for you guys to explore h4 and h5. Very, very good ideas. But now let's just focus on the main options here for black, which could be knight c6 and e6. So let's just take this one here. And now probably they might not expect you. Oops, what am I doing here? Set up a position. Let me just start all over again because this thing looks funky. Do you guys see this board correctly here? Okay, cool. Again, e4, c5. We said a3 and knight to c6. So b4 now. Obviously, black attacks twice. I'm absolutely fully aware. What I want to tell you now is that it's a sequence of moves to which if black doesn't react appropriately, they get in trouble. And what I mean is, you're going to do c3, you attack the knight, right? So you need to go back on c6. What you're going to do next, it's d4, furthering, provoking the knight. You're going to attack them. And in many cases, 99% of the games, my opponents did d5. Especially when I played the blitzers, it's crazy. So you're going to take, right? And they're going to take it back. Of course, nothing bad about it. Now you're going to come up with another interesting move, knight to a3. What exactly do you want to do with knight a3? Well, my chess friends, the knight on a3 wants to go to b5, and then he wants to go to c7. This is it. Now, it's also very possible, if you're playing blitz or bullet, even rapid, that they will play a6, hoping traditionally that's the move, a6, that stops white normally to plop either a knight or a bishop on b5. But in our position, the a6 is pinned because there is no pawn on the a file. You've just offered When you play a3, b4, you've opened up the a file. So if they do something like a6, it's not going to work. You're still going to go knight b5. They can't take unless they want to lose the rook and then having massive problems. Massive problems. And, that looks absolutely very good because they will need to retreat the queen. They will need to retreat the queen, to which you might be playing very well bishop to f4, continuously aiming at c7. That's a possibility. Very important one. Obviously, they might be playing, let's say, queen to d8. And now you're going to go to b5 here, and they might be playing what? E6, or they might be playing e5. If they do e6, you're going to play bishop to f4, and I think that looks really good, because if they're not able to stop the fork and the check, they have a problem, okay? But let's just consider this one here. If they play e5, guess what you're going to play? You're going to play d5. Where does the knight go? Where are they going to go? Is there any good square for that particular knight? Okay, knight b8. In case it happens, you're going to push it forwards. And again, the idea is this knight wants to go to c7. And that already looks very unpleasant for black. I completely don't like this. So this sequence, it's very likely to occur in the blitzes and especially bullets here. So there would be a last desperate attempt from black to play knight to a6, to which, guess what? Boom, rook takes a6, pawn takes, and now you've got a beautiful fork here. I don't know what's worse here. I do not have any good moves for black, and because there aren't. No good move for black to play in this position now. There's no good move here. You want to give the queens? You want to sack the... Fine. It's not a sacrifice. It's desperation. There's just nothing good here. Okay, so there is no point in insisting about this move here. It's just a disaster. You got this bishop. You got this guy coming out. Oops, you got a bishop coming out. You got all sorts of checks. It's just a disaster here. Okay, there's nothing good for black. So let me just go back now. So again, it's the beautiful one after queen d5. You must remember, boys and girls, knight to b5. Hold on a second. Did they play? Oh, a6 we said. Of course, it's not going to work. If they play d6 again, remember, you are going to play the knight to b5 because it's the same thing here. You want to play the knight to c7. Okay, and if they go back here, you need to continue with bishop to f4. And looks very good. And in case they stop it, you're going to take the pawn. You're going to take the pawn. Remember, if this guy plays a6, you don't need to react to that one. You're doing absolutely greatly here. If they trade off queens, no problem. You're going to take it back, and you're still having the knight to c7 threat here. So that looks very good for white if it's being played like this. So keep this in mind. Now, let me just very quickly go back, and let's just very briefly explore the other possibility with e6 here. Again, you're going to play b4, they're going to take, you're going to take, a bishop's going to take. Now, what I want to invite you guys to play is bishop b2, straight away, developing minor piece, attacking g7. Critical. If black is to drop the bishop on f5, it's like they wasted the tempo. They put the bishop back where they were. And, I mean, what's the whole point of this thing? Getting bishop out in order to put it back in. I mean, they're not going to like it very much. So, most of the players, I'm telling you guys, will be doing knight f6. Nothing bad with this, it happens. It's normal, developing and protecting implicitly g7, to which, boom, you're going to go e5. Knight's going to have to play, and very likely they're going to go here. I mean, I don't think they want to go back, do they? So knight to d5. Boom, you're going to play c4. Now, three ideas I would like to illustrate here, boys and girls, my chess friends. If knight is to play on c7 or b6, you're going to come with a very Tal-esque move. Talking about Mikhail Tal, the famous genius of tactics. You're going to come with rook e3. You're going to play rook a3. And you're going to ask me, what the heck is going on with rook a3 here? Well, rook a3 wants to play either g3 or h3. Heavily attacking on the king side, especially if black dreams of castling the king on the king side. If they capture, you're going to take. This is a very sharp position, very risky, but it looks so good for those of you that love to attack and don't want to die of boredom, bishop to a3 here, it's one that really, really frustrates black in securing their king. And you're going to continue with moves like knight f3, bishop e2, knight c3, given a chance, knight c3, and ideally, if you manage knight b5, knight d6 would be an absolute headache for black. Okay, so you got very good prospects of attacking. They can't castle at the minute. You may even explore some queen to g4 at some point. And I mean, just think about it. Let's say a black plays knight c6 here, and you come up with a move like queen to g4. What's the thing for black to react here? What, you want to play rook to g8, giving up your castling on the king side, and then you want to hope that you got enough tempos to castle the king on the queen side? I mean, I don't know what's the plan here for the black king, but I think I like it very much for white because white is attacking, is posing problems for black here, and black needs to tread very carefully in this sideline over sideline. That looks good. I just like it. I like playing this with white, sorry, very much. I love this bishop's diagonal. I love the queen's position attacking on g7. Knight f3, bishop e2. Bishop e2 or bishop d3. Bishop e2 because in principle, after you play knight f3, you want to push this guy 2 steps up. If you play bishop d3, you might need to spend an extra tempo getting on c2 and then pushing, of course, after knight f3. So bishop e2, not a bad one. Knight f3, glorious move. Depends always, you need adjusting continuously to white's moves. So it's very good to having a plan, long-term plan, awesome. But boys and girls, remember, it is important you are adjusting your game continuously to your opponent's moves. You cannot ignore the play of the other person. You can never ignore in chess the opponent's last move. So it's good to having a plan. It's good to knowing what the pieces need to go in principle, but then the nitty-gritty, the tactical, the factual, every single reply must be tuned very nicely to your opponent's reactions. Okay, so that's the Mangarini variation, boys and girls, that you could play with white against the Sicilians. So this thing is a very good, cool stuff to play. Now, there was one last idea. I don't want to forget about this one. So knight c7, knight b6 can be very nicely met with rook a3, then rook g3, rook h3, queen g4, knight f3, bishop e2, this kind of things. Right. Now, if they play knight to e7, okay, so let me just assume I'm going to play c4, obviously. Knight e7. Now, it's not that much of a strong move to playing rook a3 because if bishop takes and you take, you can't really stop black to castle here. So remember, the rook on a3 goes in a tal fashion to play if knight plays on c7 or b6. If black moves the knight on e7, you can't really say I'm going to play rook a3 because it's not that strong. Okay, so in this condition here, you just continue normally developing knight f3 here, get the bishop on e2, castle, push this guy 2 steps, knight c3, developing naturally, getting quickly and efficiently your pieces off the back row, and then envisage whatever you can to attack weaknesses in your opponent. Okay, so that should be an incredibly exciting way, guys, for you to play against the Sicilian. Put it in your arsenal. Hell, there are many other main lines you could play white against the Sicilians here, but give it some thought to this sideline Mengarini or Mengarini variation because it's absolutely gorgeous. And again, when you play the blitzes and they haven't played that one very often, it could be quite a surprising factor. And psychologically, we know that in chess, surprise is of paramount importance. You surprise your opponent in blitz or bullets, they need to spend time thinking, what the heck is this mess I got myself into? And if they consume time, obviously chess is also a sport apart from being an art. And if it's a sport and if you run out of time, you're getting flagged, you lose the game on time. Okay, because it's a competition after all. Right? So making the other guy think more than necessary by proposing sideline over sideline might get you a couple of seconds on the clock. And that matters absolutely for those of you that are inveterate blitz players. So, boys and girls, chess friends, Thank you very much for this one. Explore the Mengarini variation to play against the Sicilians. And I'll see you guys very soon with more interesting, exciting line, hopefully gambity lines, because I love gambits in chess more than anything. Okay, thanks very much, guys. See you soon.